Where did your spiritual passion come from? Because you have a lot of it.
Oh, thank you. My spiritual mother.
Your spiritual mother, who is?
We call her Divine Mother,
Uh-huh.
but she passed away in 1992. But before she left her body, she asked me to carry on for her.
Is there anybody that we might have heard of? Or?
What's her name?
We call her name is Flora Nomi, but we called her Divine Mother. So she was born and raised in Honolulu.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
And she was just the most incredibly beautiful, beautiful person I've ever met. And she was just so radiant and so beautiful, so compelling. I used to stare at her all the time. And I'd walk into her home and I'd say, "Oh, Divine Mother, you're so beautiful." She just had this radiance about her. But outwardly, I mean, she was just a cute little Japanese lady. And she was not educated. But when I met her, I just graduated from college and I was on my way to law school. And she was the last person I met before I boarded the airplane to go to law school.
In the States?
In Massachusetts, Boston.
So
anyway, I was on my way to law school, and this friend of mine said, "I know you're a sincere seeker after God, so you must meet this lady." So she says, "Here's her phone number, give her a call." So I gave her a call, and she gave me directions on how to get to her house. And I went to her home. She opened the door. She was a cute little Japanese lady, and she sat down and she spoke very rapidly, non-stop, for 5 hours. And she told me the beginning and the end of herself. Except she left one thing out, but I didn't know she was leaving one thing out. And I found out, when I found that one thing, then it was like, you know, it was like a confirmation for her. And of course I had no idea she'd left this one thing out, but I found it on my own.
Which is?
Which is, I found Sri Ramakrishna. She never said a word about Sri Ramakrishna, never mentioned him at all. So, but anyway, I had, you know, it started, I just fell in love with her. I just fell in love with her. And I took down her address, and I just started this correspondence with her. And around, when I found Sri Ramakrishna, it was just, I came home from law school one day, and I was just really down. And so I picked up the yellow pages of the phone book, and I opened it up to churches, and I just ran my finger down the column, and it just stopped at the Ramakrishna Vedanta Society. So I picked up the phone, and I called, and this man with a heavy Indian accent, you know, answered the phone. And I said, "Hi, are you open?" And he said, "No, we're not open." I said, "Well, can I come over anyway?" And he said, "Well, I'm on my way to MIT, but I will wait for you." So he gave me instructions on how to get there on the Green Line. So I caught the trolley and I went down there, and it was the Swami Sarvagatananda. But anyway, he welcomed me in and he told me about Sri Ramakrishna, and I just knew. I said, I found my shoes. So
when you came in, he sat down and told you
yes, and it's like he never had to go to MIT at all. He too spent so much time with me and shared about Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda and all that, and I just felt,
wow.
And so I just couldn't wait to read everything about Sri Ramakrishna, bought the books and everything, and, you know. So anyway, I just couldn't wait to tell my spiritual mother. I didn't call her my spiritual mother then, I just called her Flora. And I said, "Dear Flora, I'm so excited. I finally found my chosen ideal in Sri Ramakrishna." And then she wrote back to me and started telling me in her letters all about Sri Ramakrishna. I said, how could she possibly know about Sri Ramakrishna? Because one of the things that she told me was that she had no education. She only had an 8th grade education. So I said, now how would she know about Sri Ramakrishna? You know? I said, I studied religion and I never heard about Sri Ramakrishna. So now she was imparting to me about Sri Ramakrishna. She was so overjoyed that I had found him. And that's the one thing she didn't tell me. So anyway, after I had told her that I found Sri Ramakrishna, it was around Christmas time, my first year of law school. And she wrote me this card. And it was a Christmas card. And she said, "Dear Audrey, you are my spiritual child. How I love you." She said, tears of joy flow. And, you know, when I read that, I just started to cry because I felt as if that was so true. I was her spiritual child. She was my spiritual mother. So that was my journey, began my journey with the Divine Mother. And every opportunity I had to return from law school, even if it was like Christmas time or summertime, you know, I do everything I could to be with her. And, you know, then I returned back to Honolulu, opened up my law practice, and had 20 wonderful years with her.
Oh.
But it was always so loving, so filled with such kindness. And she never scolded me. I don't know why.
You're such a bad person.
Maybe she thought I was too fragile, I don't know. But she never scolded me. But she just by being with her, many of my bad habits just seemed to kind of straighten out. Like I used to be chronically late.
Oh.
You know, always tardy. And she was so punctual. And she never wanted to keep anybody waiting. Never wanted to, you know, be unmindful of other people's time. So when people, you know, wanted to take her out, she'd wait outside before the appointed time of the pickup, so they wouldn't have to park the car and go and call on her. She was always so punctual. And when I saw how much love there was in that, how much consideration and respect for the other that she had, that straightened me out. And I became very punctual. Except for tonight.
Yeah, we were going to bring that up. So that's some bad habits.
Did she have other students also? Or?
Yes, because she gave the most powerful, spontaneous expositions on the divine that you'd ever have the privilege to hear. And that's all she did was talk about God. God, 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 all the time. But I've had the most fascinating experiences with her. And of course, you know, when I was practicing law, I remember this one particular case I was so stressed out about because I had to go against this judge. I wanted to recuse him, which is something you never do. But anyway, I thought he was really mishandling the case. And so, you know, I just had this stress that was like locking my neck, and I couldn't move my neck, and it felt like a huge, thick steel band around my neck, and it was immobilized already. So I went to see her, and I said, "Oh, Divine Mother," and I just started to pour out my heart about this case, and she said, "I'm glad you told me." She went like that, and this thing just fell off my neck. I just couldn't believe it. It was like this thick band just fell off my neck. And then I could move she says, "Whatever you have to do, go ahead and do it." She says, "Don't worry, everything is in God's hands." And so it was like my mind was free. And of course I did what I had to do. Ultimately everything, you know, did work out. But I've also had really tremendous mystical experiences with her. Like I remember one day I was really, really sick. And I just said, okay, that's it, I have to go home. So I left my law office. And I just had barely enough energy to crawl in the car and drive home. And when I got home, I opened the door and I just closed the door and I just fell on the floor in my living room. I couldn't even make it to the bed. And I was just lying there very, very ill. And then she just appeared in this brilliant light. And she was so incredibly beautiful. And I looked at her and said, "Oh, Divine Mother, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well. I can't get up to greet you." And so she came to me and she knelt down and she put her arm under my head and then she placed her chest on my chest. And from her heart to my heart, there was this beautiful, soft infusion of light going puff, puff, puff. And I was filled with so much love. And I just felt so nurtured. And then she stood up and she said, "Now Audrey, remember everything I've ever taught you." And then she did this recapitulation from alpha to omega in microseconds and just wrapped it all up. And then she put it in a capsule and shot it into my chest.
Crash course.
And then she disappeared. And I was instantly well. I felt so energized and I just stood up And I was so grateful. And I said, wow, that was such an incredible experience.
Where were you when that happened?
In Honolulu. So I hopped in my car, drove to her home to thank her. And there she was sitting down waiting for me. And I said, oh, Divine Mother, thank you. That was such an incredible experience. She said, you're welcome.
That's funny.
Is she still alive?
No, she passed away in 1992. And that too was just an incredible experience because she never looked more beautiful than the last week she was leaving her body. I mean, she never wore makeup. She was very simple. But it looked as if she had rouge and lipstick, and she just had this beautiful suntan. She was just literally this golden color and glowing. And, you know, she was just, she looked so healthy. And she was leaving her body with cancer. But she looked really, really healthy and so vibrant. And she had us in stitches. I mean, we were laughing, and because she said, I'm always one with you. And she says she didn't want us to cry. She said, I'm closer to you than ever. And so she had us in this really buoyant, joyous state. And to the very end, she was always imparting lessons to us. Like she always used to say, the diamond and the dirt are the same. And so in the end, she could just take little chips of ice, and she'd say, you see, the diamond is worthless to me, but the ice is very important. See, so she was constantly telling us things like that. And then she'd always take us beyond the body. So people would come, constant stream of people would be coming to say goodbye. And she'd say, well, you see, I'm leaving the body. You can tell my legs are turning black. And so she'd ask us to take off the blanket so people could see her black legs. And then, you know, you could see that her skin was turning literally black, getting black. And then we cover her up, and then the next person would come. She says, you see, I'm leaving the body because my legs are turning black. So she said, take off the blanket so they can see. And then her legs would be totally pink. And they'd be, you know, this beautiful color, so healthy looking. What happened to the black? It just disappeared like that. So she was always telling us, you know, the senses are the least reliable indicator of truth.
Absolutely.
So are you her successor?
Yes.
And so the whole family recognizes you as her successor?
Yes.
So you're more or less their teacher, their guru, or that kind of thing? Or?
Yes, but I don't call myself that.
But that's what they
Is that what they call you? Or is that how they regard you?
I have them call me Audrey, but they refuse to. I said, call me Audrey.
She's their guru.
Right.
So when Divine Mother chose me to carry on her works, I practiced law for 4 more years. Then one night I was preparing for trial at my desk, and all of a sudden the law diploma just fell off the wall. It just dropped. The glass didn't crack, it stayed intact, but it fell off the wall. It just dropped to the floor. And I said to myself, the time is near. And within 2 weeks, I closed my law office. Because
this is in Honolulu?
Because I was left with the knowing, even though I didn't know when it would happen, that when the time came, I would be absolutely clear that it was the time to leave. And then it was true, I just knew. And I closed everything up. So then now I do a gift of service at the UN, because the UN is one of the places that the Divine Messenger told Divine Mother that the light had to go to. And so before I went to New York, I went into this 40-day retreat into complete silence. So I totally cut the senses. It was by myself. And no reading, no TV, no radio, and no eating. Just water and constant prayer and meditation for 40 days. And it was very clear then that I had to go to New York. So I went to New York. And I also just knew that I would go be at the UN somehow. And then now I'm at the UN. But I didn't have to apply. The opportunity just came. So Olara Otuna, who heads our office,
I'm sorry?
Olara Otuna, who heads our office, and I met. And, you know, he asked if I would help, and I said, okay, and there I am. So, but wherever I go, I try to raise the, you know, issue of children affected by armed conflict and show the status of children in general. And then when I give talks strictly about the UN, I always bring in the spiritual element. So they kind of, you know, so I'm doing a gift of service there.